Goods and Services Tax (GST) was introduced with stated objective to rationalize the indirect tax ecosystem of India by creating a common national market for goods and services. Close to 6 years since its introduction, we have seen a plethora of changes. We have with us today Smita Singh, partner, S&A Law Offices, to talk more about GST and its journey. Smita, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Pram.
Okay, so the first question to you would be, what changes can we expect in GST in the future, especially when it comes to ease of doing business?
Right. So, one of the major issue that industry faces and requires immediate solution, according to me, is free flow of ITC, which was promised from the day GST was introduced. Now, with the stringent rules under GST and rampant issuance of show cause notices by the GST authorities on ITC eligibility, every business has to now think twice nowadays before engaging with the third party suppliers. Although at the time of GST, as I said, it was proposed that there will be a free flow of ITC credit. With the passage of time, government has gradually increased stringency around the eligibility of ITC. Now, recipients are in fact held responsible if the suppliers do not comply with the GST rules. Now, we understand that such policies are aimed at catching the fraudsters, as we have seen in the fake invoicing drive that the government had since last 2 years. However, it is also adding difficulties to bona fide recipients, since now businesses have to start putting efforts towards regular vendor audits and also laying down processes for regular follow ups with their vendors towards the payment of GST. So, to resolve this issue, the most important aspect, as per me, for the purpose of ease of doing business, is that the government should implement an integrated system in the GST return itself, which could facilitate recipients to verify the tax payments made by the suppliers. Now, classification of goods, as we all know, is and services is another challenging part of GST. In the past 6 years, we have already witnessed number of ARs classifying same goods under different headings, such as classifying parathas as rotis in one state advanced ruling authority, while the other another state advanced ruling authority ruled that parathas are not classifiable as roti. So, going by the interpretation that we see in such cases, almost every industry, especially consumer product, is facing the heat of contrary rulings. So, in such a scenario, constitution of GST appellate tribunal is the need of the hour. When we talk about ease of business again. Now, next issue which could be reviewed by the government is centralized assessment of audits. Given that taxpayers with registrations in multiple states or even in a single state have multiple registration, but that is not the case when we talk about centralized audits. So, in multiple states have to be audited by various state and central GST formations. Apart from the sheer physical work of supplying documentation, the variance in interpretation on numerous issues across registration is not good for any business. So, this aspect needs to be addressed, and with the various representations that we are filing, I think the government or the CBIC will take an account of it and address these issues, facilitating the ease of doing business in the future.
Right. So, when it comes to GST and businesses, what do you think you have laid out a picture? But when it comes to the challenges, but what are the opportunities also for businesses? How has GST made things slightly easier?
Right. So, see, when we talk about uh, emerging businesses, such as cryptocurrency or online gaming, under GST, I will first talk about the opportunities and the struggles. That is, the government itself is struggling to provide clarity on taxable of these transactions. So there is no clear instructions. Industry players of these businesses find themselves juggling with the investigations alleging thousands of crore of evasion of tax. So, in case of emerging businesses, I think ambiguity in law coupled with delayed regulatory dispensation could cause significant hardship to this industry. Now, the opportunities that we see is because of the technological advancement in handling the compliances. Other than that, I think for emerging businesses, Pran, from my point of view, the benefits are very less. The government needs to align the GST benefits with other benefits such as fewer compliances, tax holidays, lower rate of tax to small businesses, increasing the threshold for registration, waiver of late fee, etc., as available to small players or emerging players in other laws. And for new business ideas such as crypto, a clear instruction should be provided to avoid unnecessary litigation at different forums.
Right.
I
How do
hope
you
I
think these Yeah, sorry. How do you think these challenges came about? Is it that in 2017, when the law was envisaged, and much before it, when they started working on the law, some of these things didn't even exist? And when it comes to something like a crypto, the law is still very vague across the board, not just in terms of GST. When it comes to something like a GST,
have.
the law is a little vague across the board, just not when it comes to GST.
So, see, let's say from 2017, we have seen that, there have been re-emergence of issues which were already settled in even, let's say service tax era, right? Let's say, for example, notices, GST demand on notice pay. Now, recently, the government has come up with a circular saying that GST is not leviable. But since 2017 till 2022, there were show cause notices issued left, right, and center. So apart from these settled issues, I think for when something like crypto, which is, as you said, is law is not clear in many of the aspects. I think there has to be a clear focus on or a proactive focus to handhold these issues rather than leaving it in the doldrum that okay fine we'll just see when the issues start cropping up, right? So there has to be a proper SOP in relation to something which is being addressed and not being addressed both.
Right. So then, how do you, I mean, we've seen a number of litigation, number of disputes. How do you think some of these mushrooming disputes, how can they be resolved?
Right. So, I think disputes between taxpayers and departments are typically, as we have discussed, are due to different tax positions adopted by taxpayers and revenue on classification, tax rate, eligibility of availing ITC, and claiming of ITC refunds, mostly. So, such disputes are generally brought to notice of the taxpayer during assessment proceedings, audits, scrutiny of returns, etc., by the department. A very quick and simpler way to resolve any mushrooming dispute is through introduction of an amnesty scheme, which also industry has been demanding for a long time. Recently, the government announced amnesty scheme under GST laws, wherein the opportunity was provided to regularize the compliances to the assessees. However, I think on such interpretation or classification issues also, this amnesty scheme could be extended. Another way to minimize arising of disputes is by way of obtaining advanced rulings. Advanced rulings, we all know, and we also saw in the previous regime, helped in quickly deciding a matter and avoiding any long drawn litigation. However, we have seen that at the approach, that the approach in these rulings have mostly been pro revenue. Further conflicting advanced rulings has also been creating ambiguity. So, I think a national level advanced ruling appellate authority may help in this case where we see contrary rulings, especially for businesses having, registrations across India. Further, the absence of GST appellate tribunal. Taxpayers have no other option but to approach high courts, causing further pressure on an already overburdened judicial system. From the taxpayer's point of view, even for completely justified tax positions, they have no alternative but to wait for a remedy. And such delay is causing increase in interest burden, delay in genuine refunds, free deposit of taxes leading to cash flow challenges, and repetitive show cause notices on the same issues. So, immediate constitution of GST appellate tribunal will definitely help in quick resolution of disputes And also, I think the possibility of arbitration and mediation, which many experts have been discussing as a medium of dispute resolution, can also be explored.
Right. So, when it comes to compliance costs, the GST was supposed to bring down compliance costs because it would be a simplified tax system. Has that happened?
To an extent, yes. Under GST, all compliance, right from obtaining GST registration to raising tax invoices, is an online process, which has undoubtedly eased out the business processes. However, it adds to the compliance cost. But when we compare it with the earlier regime, the difference is very, everybody can see the difference, and the ease of doing business from such, uh, you know. The processes that have been embedded in the system itself speaks a lot about the success. In fact, embedding these softwares to e-invoicing and e-way bill generation are costly affair and require annual subscriptions. However, if I think if we compare Indian GST returns with any other country's return system, ours is a very comprehensive and requires detailed disclosures. So we have to see that aspect also when we talk about the hiccups in compliances or the cost involved in compliances. So, but I think persistent issues related to mismatched ITC is yet another factor which adds to the compliance caused by companies. Uh, but this mechanism which has been introduced by the government, I think it's commendable, and the cost factor is not that important here.
So, the last question to you would be, how has technology increased the efficiency of the GST system? What role is it playing?
Yeah, so I think it flows from your previous question itself. See, with the motto of simplifying the return system and minimizing the errors in return filing, the government has taken up multiple steps to digitize GST compliances, such as e-invoicing, e-way bill, auto-population of returns, etc., in order to simplify the return system and minimizing the errors in return filing. Now, there's no doubt that technology enablement was difficult to adopt initially by the businesses because we were not used to it. Now, however, with the digitization of processes, businesses have reaped the fruits by saving time and cost both. Moreover, GST return filing system is also streamlined with the aid of technology. Earlier, businesses were facing a lot of issues while filing GST returns when data needed to be fed manually on online portals. However, with e invoicing, this issue has been resolved as now returns are pre populated and taxpayers have to only verify the numbers and e file the return. Similar is the case of ITC. With integration of different returns, eligible ITC is pre filled in the GST returns. Further, with the integration of again e-invoicing and e-way system, it has become very convenient for taxpayers to run their sales reconciliation and find out the errors, if any, on a real-time basis. So, all in all, I think with technology enablement in the GST return system, the government has not only been able to track reconciliation of data reported, but at the same time has also benefited the business in smooth filing of these returns on time to time basis without any human errors.
So, I think, needless to say, GST has its own set of gestational issues. But as it matures, we expect most of these issues to iron out quickly. Thank you, Smita, for joining us today.
Thanks, Pran. Thank you.